Climbing's gone through a lot of changes recently, and it's become like very much an indoor sport and a competitive sport. And Alex came from that world, but it's not of that world. But Hammy and Alex represent to me what's still going on of what I did, I suppose.
It's cool to see like the facility with which he still moves on rock, even though he's self-professed out of shape and like not climbing that much and not pushing himself that hard anymore.
Alex and I have really different styles of climbing. Alex is like a really elegant mechanic. He machines his way up. Hammy's got a kind of bendy, manoeuvring, quite inventive, modulating kind of thing. And the way she climbs and moves is very sort of like that.
He moves like way differently than other climbers. I mean, he is all dynamic and floaty and like bouncy. It's like the opposite of my concept. I mean, Vivian felt the same to me as Rainbow. I mean, it's just like more slate than slamming. like Red AR or whatever. Like, those places are a lot more fun than those places. But the slate, like, has a special place for me.
foreground to background, you begin to become aware of space as having a shape. The interval between all sorts of objects becomes for you something significant, even though it's constantly flowing and changing, as indeed are the objects within the space. So it is a kind of a bit of a shock to our common sense, which in most cases has not caught up with 20th century physics or astronomy, to hear space considered as something effective, as something definitely there, so that you can say it has properties. Take another case of space, which is rather startling. There are different kinds of space. Space is basically, isn't it, an interval? There is an interval between each one of us sitting here. If we didn't have that, we would suffocate by being packed together like sardines. We need space in order to function as a human being. We need a kind of area in which to gesture and move and walk about and breathe and express ourselves. Now, you can have intervals not only in space but in time. Pauses are intervals. You can also have intervals in sound, the intervals between tones or notes. And the interesting thing about the intervals between tones is that they are that upon which the hearing of melody depends. Melody is here. To hear melody is to hear intervals. Now, if you will simply visualize melody in terms of something graphic, supposing you represent a simple, say, introduction of a fugue. Or whatever, you know. You can see that in terms of a dancing line or a series of points at different levels representing, like musical notation, the high ones and the low ones. And you will recognize a pattern. But you see at once that the pattern depends on the way the critical dots in it are spaced. And it doesn't matter much whether the space is a big space or whether it's a little one, because it will always be relative to the size of the dots. You can magnify it or minify it, but you will see it is the way they are spaced that makes the difference. And here once again we are using spaced as a transitive verb now. We've talked about spaces or distances increasing, or people increasing a distance. Now we can talk about space as a verb, to space, to be spaced. And so once again the language is either playing tricks on us or else expressing a profound intuition. Language does both, and you have to watch out for which it is. Of course, it may be both. That is a possibility. But here at once you see, especially in that illustration of music, of it being necessary to hear intervals in order to hear melody. You see that the way things are spaced is really another way of talking about the way things are related. So you begin to realize that space is relationship. Go further now. There is another idea about space which is connected with with all the Oriental uses of space. It is quite fundamental to Indian and a great deal of Chinese thinking that space equals consciousness. In other words, what actually we are experiencing as the all-inclusive space in which things happen is your mind. And your mind, of course, is not something inside your head. That is a great mistake to make. Your head is something in your mind. We can define a person's mind in many ways, but beginning with something rather simple, mind is occupied with thinking. Most people think in words, and you didn't get words out of your head. You got them from the community in which you lived and were brought up. So when you think in a language which your community gave you, you are not really thinking